Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Higurashi When They Cry. It's your boy Karagol Gaming, and you know how we do things around here. This time around, we're gonna start Chapter 5 of Arc 3, and things are getting heated here. Last episode, and last chapter, I should say, things start to shift from the nice, pleasant slice of life thing that Higurashi produces at the beginning of every chapter, and now we're shifting towards the descent of insanity, basically. So, let's continue on, see where we end up.
おはよう、ケイチ。
Ah, there it is. There it is. It's gone. Nice.
あら、ゆうべは何時に寝たの？
I did not sleep well last night at all. My mother could tell from a single glance. I had the worst of dreams. Nightmares, very ominous dreams, one after the other, again and again. I woke up after each one, but could never even remember a fraction of what they had been about. But it was like those dreams were predicting something unpleasant, and I woke up in a terrible mood. Hey now, every day has been calm and fun before today, right? Those days should continue on, unchanging. And yet, anxiety was the only emotion growing from within me. Why was that? Nightmares reflect your own anxiety. They show an uneasy mind that which you wouldn't admit to normally. Yesterday, I remembered the ominous conversations about Satoshi I had with Shion, Mion, and Rena. Right. My mind felt like it was in a black fog because we had talked about that. If I had lived every day without causing a fuss, my reward would be ever more peaceful days. I understood that, so why did I cause such discord? But now that I thought about it calmly, a simple verbal slip on my part couldn't possibly change the world, right? Yeah. As long as I'm sorry for doing it and never talk about it again, there is nothing that anyone can blame me for, right? Besides, how would my fate possibly change just because I talked about that? Nothing was going to change. Yeah. Nothing would change. Nothing would change. Nothing would change.
気持ち悪い笑い。
Mom, you're not supposed to say that.
寝ぼけてるなら顔を洗ってらっしゃい。
I had finally cheered up enough to smile, and Mom slapped me right back down. And now, I was irritated again. Thanks, Mom. There wasn't much time left before I had to meet up with Rena. I frantically started to get ready to go to school.
行ってらっしゃい。車に気をつけるのよ。
You too.
気をつけるほど車もいないよ。Hinamizawaには。
I dashed out the front door. The morning air was far more refreshing than the water on my face. That's right, Keiichi Maibara. If you're sorry enough about it and reflect upon your mistakes, that's enough. Now let's pull yourself together and get to school, shall we? And return to fun, enjoyable days again. Where everyone laughs, plays, and just has a good time. I'll be nice to Satoko as an apology too. Yeah. Wasn't I supposed to be her Nini until Satoshi got back? Dude.
おはよう、ケイチくん。
Rena too looked nothing like she had yesterday when she said all that weird stuff. If only I could forget, then I could still act like nothing had happened. So I called out to her with all the energy I could muster.
おう、おはようレナ。相変わらず早いな。おはよう。おはようございます。
There was little time before the same old morning homeroom began, but Satoko and Rika-chan were unusually absent. Maybe they went to play somewhere. However, looking over and seeing none of their things, so it looked like they really hadn't come to school. Yet, maybe?
あれれ、あの二人が遅刻なんて珍しいね。
Rena seemed to be enjoying herself thinking about what their excuse for being late would be. Technically, they're not late yet. Mion said something nonsensical as well, imagining how funny the reason they were late must have been. I had only come to school to see their energetic faces since I figured it would get rid of these feelings I have, but the load on my chest remained where it was. It wasn't very pleasant at all.
おはようございます、皆さん。 委員長号令起立。
Our teacher finally arrived. Then, finally, I heard the pitter-patter of footsteps running down the hall. Clatter. Rika-chan was the first to run through the open door. And then Satoko. Didn't come. Oh?
遅刻ですよフルデさん。北条さんはどうしましたか？
It was unusual for Rika-chan to be late, but equally unusual for Satoko, a ball of energy, to be absent at all. Everyone's eyes were as wide as the series of strange events.
さとこはちょっと遅れるかもしれないのです。
熱でも出ちゃいましたか？
The teacher walked over to Rika-chan and they started talking in hushed tones.
リカちゃんが遅刻でさとこが欠席なんて珍しいこともあるもんだよ。
そうだね。だけどさとこちゃんどうしたんだろう。風邪かな。
Why now, when I most want to see Satoko's energetic face? The unease that had been building since last night tightened within my chest.
ケイちゃんは心配しすぎ。年頃の女の子にはね、どうしても体の都合で具合が悪くなっちゃう時があるの。
みーちゃん、それ男の子の前で言うことじゃないよ。
Mion laughed indecently. Normally I would laugh along with her, but right now I just didn't feel like it. Homeroom ended, and we went to talk to Rika-chan in the short time we had before the first period started.
ようリカちゃん、遅刻して怒られてかわいそうかわいそうだな。今日は俺がなでなでしてあげよう。
I was very aware of my gloom this morning, so I strove to keep my tone cheerful. I petted Rika-chan's head the same way she always did, but she didn't cheer up at all.
みー、
さとこはどうしたんだ？風邪か？
For instance, she got a fever from playing around too much yesterday. If that had been her response, I would have accepted it in a flash.
うん。
But the atmosphere around Rika-chan felt somehow heavy. It was a little weird and actually made my unease worse.
ほらほらほら、男の子には話せない事情ってのもあるんだから。ケイちゃんはお席へ戻って戻って。
Mion, acting just like a club president, pulled me back to my chair. Rika-chan's gaze immediately fell back to her desk and she hung her head gloomily. Rika-chan had said something odd, that Satoko might be a little late. They were living together, weren't they? Then she would have known for sure. She wouldn't have said might. I didn't understand why she was absent, and that made me all the more anxious. Damn it. What's going on today? It's like we started off on the wrong foot, and it wasn't going to get any better.
どうしたのかな、ケイチくん。今日はなんだか朝から元気ないよ。
Rena noticed how I looked and whispered to me while the teacher wasn't looking.
そんなに俺元気ないか？
うん。見てるレナまで元気がなくなるくらいに。
So fucking don't look at me, how about that? I thought of jokingly saying then don't look at me, but I didn't even feel like doing that.
レナに話せること？どんな悩みかわからないけど、聞いて力になれることなら聞くよ。
Rena said this, looking me straight in the eye.
昨日まで何も変なことなんか起きなくて
See, now you're fucking up
楽しか
again.
ったんだ。
You should just shut the fuck up and say nothing is wrong. Huh? Rena's eyes widened for a moment, not understanding what I meant, but she remained silent and listened.
穏やかで楽しくて毎日が賑やかで、そんな毎日が繰り返されることに何の不安もなかった。
うん、そうだね。毎日楽しいよ。きっと今日も楽しくなる。
絶対にそうなるって自信が持てるか？
うん。
Rena, feeling perplexed, couldn't think of something to say. I didn't blame her. What I was trying to say seemed a little confusing, even to me.
思えばここ最近不安だったんだ。毎日が楽しいからこそ、ある日ふっと電球が切れるみたいに 突然真っ暗になってしまうんじゃないかって。
うん、その気持ちちょっぴりレナもわかるよ。
Rena nodded gently.
私たちはいいことばかりは続かないって、ずっと楽しいことの裏側を時々恐れるよね。それってちょっぴり悲しいことだけど、でもそのおかげで私たちは楽しい毎日がずっと続くように努力することを覚えたんだよ。
そうだな。
だから圭一くんが楽しい日々がいつまでも続かないかもしれないって思うのは決して悪いことじゃないと思うよ。例えば明日突然火山が大爆発して私たちが全員死んじゃうとする。
おいおい、物騒な話だな。
例えばその大災害を圭一くんだけが生き残ったとしたらどう感じる？
どうって。
Well, usually empty, I guess, but since I know every single one of you are crazy bitches, I would feel a little bit relieved, to be honest with you. I imagine myself being that sole survivor in the ruins of Hinamizawa, rubble and the bodies of friends lying in heaps at my feet. It was such an abhorrent sight. Was it sadder that all my friends had died? Or was it sadder that I couldn't have died with them? I didn't know which, but I would probably cry a lot.
胸が張り裂けるだろうな。まず泣くと思う。
そしてこう思うんじゃないかな。こうなることが運命だったなら昨日までの日をもっともっと楽しく悔いなく過ごせばよかったって。
I didn't want to consider such an horrible event to be my destiny, but
思うだろうな。
eventually,
楽しい毎日がいつか終わるものならそれがいつかなんて誰にもわからない。だったらたとえ明日そうなっても悔いがないように精一杯楽しく生きるのが正解じゃないのかな。
そうだな。
それに気づくのはとても難しいこと。多くの人たちは日々の幸せに飽食してるよ。今日と同じ明日が訪れると信じきってるから。今日できることを明日に送る。今日してやれる優しさを明日に送ってしまう。
Rena was usually cheerful and silly, but right now she wasn't like that at all. She was taking my trouble seriously. It was a little reassuring, to be honest with you.
でも圭一くんはそれに気づけた。それはとても素敵なことだと思う。だからその不安な気持ち大切にしてもいいと思うの。
この不安を大切に。
そう、明日には大災害でみんな死んじゃうかもしれない。
Are you foreshadowing right now?
だから今日みんなにいっぱい優しくしよう。本当に週末が訪れた時後悔しないために。
レナは実践してるのか？明日みんなが死んじゃっても後悔しないようにさ。
It was such a hyperbolic conversation, but Rena just gave me a nonchalant nod off her head.
レナは楽しい毎日がたった一日を境に終わってしまうことを知ってるから、今日が楽しくても明日も楽しい保証なんかないって生きてるよ、精一杯。
It seemed like Rena perfectly understood all the anxiety I couldn't put into words. And on top of that, like a reliable teacher, she showed me what to do. Oh. Eikichi Maibara. There is no need to cry now.
ゆうべ聡子の夢を見た気がするんだ。どんな夢だったかは思い出せないけど、朝からずっと不安で。
聡子ちゃんの元気な顔を見れたら安心するつもりだった
Ooh.
かな。
She was right on the money. If everyone had been here with smiles on their faces this morning, then the murk in my heart would have definitely been blown to smithereens.
じゃあ聡子ちゃんが来たら優しくしてあげることだね。いつもの悪ふざけでも一向に構わない。楽しく過ごすことができるなら。
そうだな。
so that even if these fun days come to an end, I would have no regrets. I couldn't tell if what Rena told me had been comforting or just made me more anxious, but it was enough to make me think that if I saw Satoko again, I would be honest with her. Lunchtime arrived with everyone pushing their desks together like always. Satoko wasn't here. Despite that, we had bento boxes for 5 lined up on our desks. Rika-chan had made a bento for Satoko too.
さとこ、お昼までには来るはずだったの？
Rika-chan was clearly acting strangely. We were talking to her, but it felt like she was too far away to hear us. I had never seen Rika-chan so downcast, so the rest of us started feeling down too. Hey Rena, I understood what she said before pretty well. When we were together, we were supposed to have lots of fun so we wouldn't have any regrets if the world ended tomorrow. And yet, while I had just resolved myself to do it, now we can't all be together. What the fuck? Because it was just so sudden, wasn't it? I mean, yesterday was fun, so who could believe that it would all end today? No volcanoes had erupted, no earthquakes or fires had happened either. The cicadas were making the same noises they did yesterday, and the sun remained bright in the sky. It was the same normal day as always. So then why? As I pondered, Rena's chopsticks reached in front of my face and stole the fried chicken out of my bento.
みんなが取らないからレナがもらうね。おいしい。
Rena tossed the entire piece into her mouth and began munching on it, her expression one of bliss.
と、おじさんとしたことがレナに先生を許すとはね。よっしゃ、おじさんはこのプチハンバーグをもらうよ。
みえ、僕のおかずがなくなってしまうのです。
Rika-chan, also behind the curve, smiled again and went for someone else's bento. As I sat there, dazed at how quickly everyone had changed, Rena sent a wink over to me. Come on, Keiichi-kun, live life to the fullest. That way, if a volcano erupts tomorrow, it'll be aight.
冗談じゃねえ。最後の弁当が梅干しとご飯だけになってたまるか。それ、俺はミートボールをいただくぞ。
I stuffed the meat into my mouth and constructed a clumsy smile. Phrasing, bitch. I played along as if trying to fool myself. But as I did, it rapidly became less and less of an act. Satoko still wasn't here, but at some point we had regained our lively lunchtime. We had fun, we smiled, and we fooled around. Thanks everyone. This was definitely the best thing to do. This way, when Satoko suddenly dropped by, we could welcome her with our best smiles. The more I smiled, the more I felt the anxiety from this morning clearing away.
笑う角に服着たるってことわざあったよな。
あるね。それが事実なら、おじさんは四六時中笑い転げてるよ。
レナは本当だと思うな。毎日笑ってれば毎日が楽しいよ。レナがいいことを言いますです。
じゃあ試してみるか。
Everyone took a deep breath and then brought their faces together, locking shoulders. And then... Hey, the moment is over, bro. Everyone laughed uproariously from their stomachs, trying to laugh out all of the bad stuff accumulating in them. By the time our bento boxes were empty, everyone was right as rain. So we're not gonna talk about what happened to Satoko here? Is that what y'all talking about? Did she transfer out, bitches? Having heard our friendly banter, Tomita-kun and Okumura-kun walked up and timidly spoke to us. What y'all fucking laughing about?
前原さん、楽しくお話し中。ちょっとお力をお借りしたくて。
They grinned dryly and scratched their heads.
なんだよ一体。テストの対策法は以前教えただろ。
What? What the f... Why would that be the first?
ちなみに千恵先生が授業中と含み笑いを教科書で隠した時が次のテスト範囲だ。
Something wrong with y'all motherfuckers, man.
そうなんですか？
That's not what we're here for, said Tomita-kun, elbowing Okumura-kun.
ボールが2階の雨どいに引っかかっちゃったんですよ。
Gutter, you say?
前原さんなら身長高いからなんとかなるんじゃないかと思って。
Well, there's no way Satoko could be there, right?
ほう。先輩に物を頼むからには何か見返りがあるんだろうな。俺は高いぜ。簡単に買収できると思うなよ。
Tomita-kun and Okumura-kun conversed for a short time, then gave their reply.
では前原さんには授業中に居眠りができる権利を与えましょう。それでどうです？
なんだそりゃ。授業中に寝るのは俺の勝手だろ。なんでお前らに権利をもらわなくちゃならんのだ。
そんなことないですよ。今度は前原さんが居眠りしたら全部先生に言いつけることにしますから。
Exactly.
なるほど、うまいうまい。
とんでもない交渉の仕方を覚えやがって。
すみません。ちょっとした冗談っす。
Was it though?
ほらほらゲイちゃん、おとなしく後輩たちの脅迫に屈したら
And now Mion was getting on my nerves too. Suddenly it came to me, and I took Tomita-kun and Okumura-kun's hands.
わかった。俺の降参だ。ボールを取ってやるから居眠りの権利を俺にくれ。見ろミオン、俺はちゃんと権利をもらったぞ。でもお前はもらってないよな。富田君、岡村君、ミオンが居眠りしたらすぐにチクれ。いいな。
Rena and Rika-chan began to cackle at Keiichi-kun's victory. I wasn't sure how the ball managed to get stuck up there, but it was planted firmly in the school building's second floor gutter.
その棒を貸せ。俺なら多分よいしょっと。
I took a bamboo pole and poked the ball with it. Damn, it's hard. That's what she said. Come on.
取れた。取れましたよ前原さん。どうもありがとうございました。
The ball rolled down the gutter and fell down behind the school building. My underclassmen ran over in that direction, leaving me by myself. Mission complete, I guess. Sheesh. There was still a lot of time left before the lunch break was over. Guess I should go back to the classroom. I would absorb myself in silly conversation with everyone and wait for afternoon classes. Just when I thought that and turned towards the entrance, someone suddenly called out to me.
どうもどうも、こんにちは。
Here you are to fuck everything up for me. Alright man, go ahead.
お昼休み中すみませんね。
It was a middle-aged man I didn't know. Or maybe I had passed by him a few times and I had seen his face, but I didn't know him. When his half smile deepened, something within me shuddered with fear. There was no basis for that, no reason, but I shuddered. I was somewhat confused about those emotions, not quite understanding them myself. There was one thing I could say though. Nobody but teachers and students should be at school. This person shouldn't have been here. I felt less of a tremble and more of a sense of dread, like a caterpillar, brilliantly colored in garish, bilious greens, were crawling across my forehead. A feeling of disgust that neither itchy nor gross could describe as the frizzly, dreadful hair rubbed against my brow. I didn't even want to see his face. I wanted to jump backwards and run away. An unpleasant feeling for which I didn't even know the cause. The other side of myself has nothing but questions. Hey, what are you doing? What are you disgusted by? This is the first time you've met him. It's rude to hate someone for no reason. No answers were coming. I held my silence, waiting, a damp sweat running down my forehead. When he saw that, Oishi thought maybe he was being intimidating and gave me a relaxed smile. Shouldn't you at this point refer to him as this person instead of Oishi?
は失礼しました。怪しいもんじゃないんですよ。ふんふん。私、沖宮警察署から参りました。あれ、手帳どこかな。あれ参ったな。ありゃ
He fished through various pockets, then finally found his police ID and showed it to me, grinning dryly. He may have been trying to use those clumsy-seeming actions to ease my anxiety, but I could definitely say it didn't work. Why was I this nervous? There was a reason, of course. If I wanted today to be the same as before, then today didn't need to be someone who hadn't come back. What? If I wanted today to be the same as before, then today didn't need someone who hadn't been here back then. The fuck you just say to me? The fact that a man who wasn't here yesterday showed up today meant that today would be a different day than those before it. Bro, are you fucking dumb? That would mark the end of the fun and happy days. Bro, you are different. I gulped and erased that ominous conclusion from my mind. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. It's just an old guy who looks kinda perverted and came from the police department. Don't go deciding that the fun times are over. He just came here because of his job. Yeah, just for his job. If he's working, then he would normally go to the teacher's lounge, right? The fact that he spoke to me, yes, it must have been to ask where it was.
職員室をお探しですか？なら、あそこの昇降口から入って。
I didn't want to look at this man for another second, so I started pushing things along. Oishi, however, didn't seem to have any interest in the teacher's lounge.
ああ、いえいえ。職員室にはそんなに用事はないんです。それより、お友達を呼んでもらいたいんですが。
お友達？誰です？
女の子です。北条聡子さんを呼んできてもらえませんか。
Very interesting. My consciousness grew faint, like I was about to pass out. Yeah, my anxiety was realized. The dreadful, disgusting caterpillar was looking at me, about to crawl into my ear. Its frizzly, dreadful hair was touching my ear cavity. That's how bad it felt.
警察が聡子に何の用ですか？
いえいえ、大した用事じゃないんです。2、3聞きたいことがありまして、ご協力をいただければ嬉しいんですがね。
Why? Why of all people was it Satoko? Why would a police officer come here in the middle of the day for something that wasn't important? This man was strange. I could smell it. And it smelled bad. Just a whiff of it made me want to grimace. I knew that this man couldn't possibly be here to deliver her lost wallet or anything like that. I couldn't imagine what he needed from Satoko, but it had to be something unpleasant. My throat stung with a burning pain. Burned like a parched, creviced wasteland. The wasteland broke apart deep in my throat and brought out the words from deep in my mind.
あんたに用はあっても、聡子にはないと思います。
It's not your call to make.
帰ってくれませんか？
Oishi probably hadn't expected that reply. He stood there surprised for a few moments. I did as well. I hadn't thought words like that could ever come out of my mouth. Things might still work out. This guy may have shown up out of the blue, but if I drove him off, maybe I could make it so it never happened. If I could do that, then I could get back the peace we had until yesterday. I could get it back.
これは手厳しいな。あなた、聡子さんのマネージャーさんですかな？
Mayhaps.
アポイントメントがないと面会は叶いませんか？
話がしたいだけなら電話ですればいいじゃないですか。日中学校にまで押しかけてくるなんて明らかに異常です。
Breaking through a dam would have been the perfect analogy to use here. Why didn't I like this man? This man shouldn't have been here. I needed to make it so that this man wasn't here. Childish, selfish emotions bubbled up from the depths of my mind, and they each came out from my mouth just as it had been formed. Not liking the guy was my own problem, but to say things so bluntly to him, even I thought I was crazy.
ありゃ、いちいち正論な方ですね。こういう言い方をする人は苦手なんだよな。
Oishi grinned and scratched at his sweaty throat. Even as he feigned stupidity, I could tell he was irritated. Hey Keiichi Maibara, why am I looking for a fight with this old policeman here? It's not like he brought the gift of misfortune with him all wrapped up in paper, right? Right. It wasn't like he had brought a package of misfortune with him and was asking me to sign here, please. Rationally speaking, I understood all that. So then why was I so... Finally, I outlasted Oishi in our game of silence and he gave a big sigh. Then he addressed a few of my female underclassmen running around nearby.
もしもし、君たち、ちょっといいですかな。北条聡子さんを呼んできてほしいんですがね。
My underclassmen tried to smile in reply, but they noticed the oddly stiff air atmosphere around me. See, bro, come on, dog. And seemed hesitant to give a quick answer.
いませんか、北条聡子さんは。
北条さんは今日はお休みですけど。
休み。
His face remained smiling, but his tone was clearly one of ill humor. Such conspicuous spite caused my underclassmen, who had answered honestly, to cringe in fear.
そうですか。いやはやいやはや。これはついてないです。
He was smiling broadly, but the way he laughed didn't make me feel better at all. When he noticed that his laughter wasn't getting anyone else to laugh with him, he immediately stopped.
で、君たち、ここにいるお兄さんは、なんて名前か教えて。
He grabbed the girls by the shoulders so they wouldn't run away and crouched down to address them at eye level. The girls flinched away from the sharp, piercing light in his eyes. And in exchange for the release, they didn't resist and told him my name.
ほう、前原圭一さんですか。
He said my full name. That was all he said, and yet I couldn't help but shudder. It was like he had grabbed me by the collar just by those words.
あなたひょっとして例の前原屋敷の御曹司。お父さん、高名な芸術家さんなんですってね。年に2回ほど東京の大展覧会に出展されてるそうじゃないですか。
I guess.
どんな立派な絵を描かれるかは存じませんがね。
Makes two of us.
お母さんも知的そうな方じゃないですか。
What the fuck you say about my mom?
高学歴って聞きましたよ。どこぞの女子大を出られてるそうじゃないですか。
It's more exposition than I know about my own mom, man.
あの年の女性で女子大でなんてすごいですよ。ひょっとしてお母さん、両家のお嬢さんなんじゃないですか。なんて噂が立ってるせいか。冷たい人だなんて噂が立てられてるなんてご存知で。町内会の会合、最初の1回以外は出てないでしょう。そういうのっていけないんですよね。こういう土地ではご近所付き合いをないがしろになんかできませんよ。
What's wrong with you, dog? A sense of eeriness slithered up my spine. That was, my first experience of true terror. I couldn't believe it felt this terrible for someone you've just met to know everything about you already. Oishi clamped onto my shoulders and brought his eyes close to peer into mine.
こういう土地ではね、敵は作らない方が絶対にいいですよ。さもないと。
Ow. Oishi dug into my shoulders with inhuman strength.
思わぬところで不利益を受けるかもしれません。因果応報という言葉もありますよ。
You know, this is fucking rich. Coming all the way to Hinamizawa to threaten someone who lives here when you're an outsider yourself, motherfucker.
風が吹けば桶屋が儲かるの正反対です。妙なところで買った恨みが信じられないところで帰ってくることがあるかもしれません。そうなったら嫌でしょ誰だって恨みなんか買いたくないんです。敵を作らないに越したことなんかない。どうしました？肩がだいぶ凝ってますね。ちょっと揉んであげましょうか。
Are you a masseuse now?
ほら、気持ちいいでしょ。
Let go of me, bitch. This man wasn't just strong. It was like he knew exactly where to press to make me feel pain. Only 4 or 5 fingers were on my shoulders, and yet the pain made me want to bend over backwards. A few of the girls from my class were pretty shaken up, but didn't seem to want to help me. They weren't sure if they should go call the teacher. As for me, I couldn't take the time to wait until the teacher got here. It fucking hurts.
もうそれくらいになさってください。痛がってますよ。
え？
Behind Oishi-san, someone, to my disbelief, it was Coach.
おや、これは入江先生じゃありませんか。
Doctor.
ご無沙汰しておりますね。
Discomforted by Coach's sudden appearance, Oishi laughed scornfully. The vice on my shoulders, however, remained as strong as ever.
挨拶はいいです。それよりも前原くんを離してあげてください。
Oishi smiled daringly and glared straight at the coach. He didn't release me in the meantime, of course.
先生のところにも後でお伺いしようと思っていたんですよ。いつもお忙しいとかでろくろくお話ができませんからね。
ええ、お望みとあればいくらでもお話を伺いますよ。でもその前に令状をお持ちになってください。職務質問と任意同行は拒否できますからね。
Coach didn't display a shred of the weird behavior he had shown at the baseball game and barbecue. He stared steadily at Oishi and fought so that he would release me. His chances were terribly bad, of course. Compared to the relaxed Oishi, Coach seemed like he was being defeated mentally. It made sense. Coach had a somewhat narrow stature, but Oishi's body was packed with muscles. It wasn't even a contest. But Coach was fighting for me without taking a step back. Beads of sweat formed on his face, and though he paled, he was fighting for my sake. Suddenly, Oishi laughed and let go of my shoulders. My body exhausted, I fell onto my backside.
前原くん、大丈夫ですか？
くそ。いってててて。
I rubbed my shoulders where Oishi-san had latched onto them. The pain from falling over went away quickly, but this pain was lingering.
大丈夫ですか？前原くん。ひどいことを。
くそ。あいててて。
ちょっと肩を揉んだだけじゃないですか。前原さんも少し大げさすぎですよ。男の子はもう少し我慢強くなくっちゃ。
I wanted to retort, but I couldn't think of anything witty.
肩は上がりますか？痛みますか？痛みが強いようならちゃんと診察をした方がいい。とにかく保健室へ。
Coach lent me his shoulder and walked beside me.
大げさですね。私に限って傷が残るような真似をするわけがないじゃないですか。ねえ。私、これでも現職の警察官なんですよ。
さあ、どんなご用があったか存じませんが、もうご用がないならお帰りを。今日のことは今度所長さんに直接抗議しますから。
それは困りますね。
Oishi-san waved his hand sarcastically, pivoted around, and headed to the car parked by the school gates. And without turning back around, he got in and started the engine. Damn it. Who the hell was he? Damn it!
あいつは大石クランドという乱暴者でね、村中に嫌われている男です。前原さんも用心した方がいい。
Kurado Oishi. Just like I thought. My gut instinct wasn't wrong. He would be the one to bring unhappiness, misfortune, something that would ruin our peace. Shit, I won't accept it. I guess I have to kill him. All these fun days can't possibly end just because some guy like him showed up. I won't. I shall not accept it. Coach seemed to be familiar with the school, so he brought me to the nurse's office without too much trouble. The girls from my class came along as well, looking worried. Our teacher and the principal, having noticed the disturbance, came to see what was the matter.
前原くん、どうしたんですか？怪我でも。前原さん、さっき校庭で変なおじさんに。
Coach gently interrupted the girls trying to explain.
いえ、ちょっと転んでひねったみたいです。
Interesting.
大丈夫だとは思いますけど、保健室をちょっとお借りいたします。
入江先生、よろしくお願いしますぞ。
The principal gave him a deep bow. It looked like Coach was acquainted with the adults at school. He slid open the doors to the nurse's office, but there wasn't a nurse in there or anything. I had figured. I had never seen anyone but Chia-sensei and the principal working here. Coach didn't seem to mind the fact that there was no nurse and quickly made his way into the nurse's office. He instructed me to sit down and started washing his hands in the sink. Oh, I get it. He's the coach for the boys' baseball team. He must be pretty used to treating wounds with first aid.
ちょっと患部を見せてもらえますか？まだ痛みます。
いえ、もう全然痛みません。本当に大丈夫です。
I rolled up my shirt and showed him my shoulder. Not even nail marks. Interesting that you would say that. And yet it had hurt so much, I thought my shoulders would be crushed. Even the pain had disappeared without a trace. It hurt so much, but not so much as a bruise remained. Bro, then why do you have to say this?
それだけあいつが慣れているということですよ。
Used to it, huh?
今度会った時は挑発しないことです。あいつを怒らせて得をすることは何もありませんからね。自宅に制服警官を連れて押しかけてきたら、ご家族だっていい気持ちはしないでしょ。
それは確かに。
しかし何があったんです？前原さんがあいつと喧嘩になるなんて。
あいつ、里子に用事があるとか言ってきて。
え？里子ちゃんにですか？
Coach's gaze lowered and his expression clouded a bit. Somehow, that gesture seemed to be saying Oishi was bound to come to Satoko and did, and that it wasn't no laughing matter. Coach fell silent in thought. Quietly, he took a compress out of the first aid kit and put it on me.
あの男はまだ里子ちゃんに付きまとうつもりなんでしょうか？
So he has done this before?
本当に蛇みたいにしつこい男です。
Coach mumbled to himself.
付きまとう？あの大石っていうやつ、たびたび里子のところへ来てるんですか？
Coach didn't answer, but the lack of a denial served well enough. What on earth did that policeman, probably a detective or something, need from Satoko? What mistake had led a detective to cling on to the sweetly smiling Satoko?
前原さんは引っ越してきたばかりでしたね。
ええ、そうですけど。
お社様のたたりと里子ちゃんの話は少しは聞いたことがありますか？
Oh. Well, I knew a few things about it, certainly.
里子の両親がダム計画の賛成派で、転落事故で死んだのはたたりだって話ですか？
Coach smiled thinly and dryly. So you know, he said, dropping his gaze. If I recalled correctly, there was an accident on a viewing platform at the public park she had gone to with her family, and her parents died. And then it was just big brother and little sister. And then she was with Rika-chan and what the fuck?
ご両親が亡くなった聡子ちゃんとお兄さんの聡君はおじ夫婦宅に身を寄せることになりました。
そうなんですか。
Their parents died in the accident and Satoshi ran away, leaving only Satoko to start living with Rika-chan. I had known that much, but this was the first time I heard they had been brought to their uncle and aunt.
おじというのは聡子ちゃんのお父さんの弟にあたる方なんで、残念なことに夫婦揃ってちょっと尊敬に値する方々ではありませんでした。
Coach normally picked his words politely, so when he came out and said they didn't deserve respect, it really made me wonder what kind of people they were.
聡子ちゃんの両親がダムに賛成していたとばっちりで、おじ夫婦も村内ではとても肩身の狭い思いをしていましたからね。聡子ちゃんたちを歓迎するはずもなかったんです。聡子ちゃんたち兄弟にとってとても辛い生活だったと聞きを読んでいます。
Bit by bit, Coach had told me about the numerous agonies the Hojo siblings had suffered at their uncle's house. As their guardians, their aunt and uncle sucked up everything belonging to their immediate family. Satoko and Satoshi were crammed into a small room, and their lives were laden with things that were miserable both for their bodies and minds. In the first place, since apparently their aunt and uncle weren't on good terms, there was no end to their fighting. And as if in revenge for that, whenever they saw Satoko and Satoshi's face, they would always find fault with them, scold them, yell at them, strike them, and take away meals as punishment.
今思い出しても、今の元気な聡子ちゃんしか知らないあなたには、土毛色の顔をして、ただ日陰でぼーっとしているだけの彼女など、想像もつかないでしょう。
I couldn't imagine it, and I didn't want to. That was how I honestly felt. But at the very least, Satoko wasn't like that anymore. She may have had a miserable life in the past, but it was different now. Something happened to change that life.
去年の綿流しのお祭りの夜にね、異常者にバットか何かで殴り殺されて、
Oh my.
綿流しの祭りの夜には村の旧敵がたたりで死ぬと噂されてましたからね。この死も単なる殺人事件としてだけでなく、お社様のたたりではないかと村中でささやかれました。
A few days later, the deviant arrested for drug use confessed to further offenses and the incident was resolved. However, though it was resolved, no one knew whether the part about it being Oyashiro-sama's curse was true or not.
おじだってHinamizawaの人間ですからね。お社様のたたりを大層怖がり、逃げ出して雲隠れしてしまったそうです。
Or was he spirited away?
聞いた話では、沖宮あたりの実婚の中の女性宅に転がり、
それで解放されたんですか、聡子たちは。
おばは死に、おじは逃げ出し、誰も兄弟をいじめる者はいなくなるはずだったんですが。
So you would think that Satoshi's resolve to stay with her sister would be even stronger since he endured the torture by their uncle and aunt. So why would he, you know what I mean?
まるでその後を継ぐように、あの男が執拗に現れるようになったんです。
あの男？
Oishi. Then Coach lowered his voice just a bit as if being aware of his surroundings.
大石です。
大石。さっきの男。
The event that just occurred came back to me. The hard to describe ominous sensation I had felt from him came back to me.
あいつは少しおかしいんですよ。お社様のたたりをめぐる一連の事件はみんな解決しているのに、あいつだけがそれを認めていないんです。
Accepted. The incidents were all solved, and the detective supposedly with the police department didn't accept that.
あいつが近づく人間には必ず何かよからぬことが起こると言われています。Hinamizawaではね、大石のことをお社様の。
The door flew open with a rattle and Mion came rushing in. Rena and Rika-chan came running in a few steps behind her, and then Tomita-kun, Okumura-kun, and a few more of our classmates.
ケイちゃん、大石にやられたの？怪我を？
落ち着いてミオンさん、怪我はありませんよ。念のため湿布をしているだけです。
ケイチくん、本当に大丈夫かな？みんなに聞いたら首を絞め上げられてたとか言ってて。
落ち着けよレナ。肩をすげえ痛く握られただけだ。ほら、あざだってないだろ。
たく、あんたら何やってんだよ。仲間だろ。なんでぼーっとしてたんだよ。なんでケイちゃんを助けなかったんだよ。
ごめんなさい、委員長。
Mion yelled at our classmates, baring her fangs. Tomita-kun and the others hung their heads in silence.
よせよミオン。富田君たちはその場にいなかったんだ。責めるのはよせ。
くしょう、大石のやつ。
Mion kicked the floor with her heel a few times, her temper running hot. Our teacher, overhearing the commotion, arrived as well.
こらこらこら、保健室で騒がしくしてはいけません。
It's not a library, ma'am.
委員長、みんなを連れて保健室から出なさい。
ほらみんな、もう行こう。
I'm sorry, are you the president?
ケイチくんは大丈夫だって。ほら、みーちゃんも。
Mion was letting her emotions get the best of her, so Rena stepped in instead and led everyone out of the nurse's office. The detective from Okinomiya Station, Kuroado Oishi. It looked like the first impression I had gotten from him hadn't been mistaken. Satoko's absence had amplified the vague apprehensions I had felt since yesterday, and Oishi-san's appearance basically sealed the deal.
さて、じゃあ私はもともと千恵先生に用事があってきたんです。
あ、用事があって学校に来たんですよね。俺なんかのために。どうもすみませんでした。
Don't be so humble, he said, smiling easily.
おかげで役得と言いますか、前原くんのきめ細やかなお肌も存分に堪能できましたよ。
For fuck's sake, man.
はふー。
It was normal for like 5 minutes. It's fucked up. With the usual, for Coach anyway, parting words, he instead continued.
では失礼します。大した怪我ではありませんが、患部を揉んだりするようなことはくれぐれも避けてください。もしも高熱が出たり腫れたりするようなことがあったら、そんなことはないと思いますが。
あ、そうだ監督。
Why the fuck would fever be a side effect of squeezing my shoulders?
さっきみんなが来る直前、何か言ってましたよね。大石のことを、お社様のなんとかって。
As he was about to leave the nurse's office, Coach placed a hand on the door and stopped.
ああ、お社様の使いですよ。もちろん悪口ですがね。
お社様の使い？
Don't take it to heart.
前原さんはHinamizawaで毎年綿流しの夜に起こるHinamizawa村連続開始事件。
え？連続開始？え？
Now that I thought about it, I did seem to remember overhearing Mion or someone in class talking about it like a ghost story. On the festival day in June, one person would always die, and another person would be spirited away, but they seem to be calling it demoning away here. What a fine story that was. I figured they made it up to scare me, but it was true?
一体どこの誰が言い出したのかもわからない話ですが、いつの頃からか大石のことをお社様の使いと呼ぶようになりました。
なぜですか？
あの男がその年のたたりの犠牲者を決めと噂されているからです。
Whenever June came around, Oishi would start paying frequent visits to Hinamizawa.
亡くなったり消えたりする人たちの多くがあの男の執拗な訪問を受けているからです。
4 years ago, it was known that the victim of the dismemberment rumored to be the sacrifice had been seeing Oishi numerous times leading up to the incident. The sacrifices 3 years ago were Satoko's parents. Right before their accidental deaths, Oishi had apparently visited their home. The one who disappeared 2 years ago was Rika-chan's mother. And again, people know that before she vanished, Oishi-san had been talking to her extremely frequently. The one who disappeared last year, Satoko's older brother, Satoshi. Satoshi too had apparently been approached by Oishi many times before he vanished. And then this year? This time, Oishi was trying to contact Satoko?
冗談じゃないです。
噂ですよ。そういう噂がある。
I hadn't said that because of the rumors of Oishi being Oyashiro-sama's servant or his contacting someone foreshadowing who would be the sacrifice that year. It was because the ominous hatred I felt towards Oishi was becoming more substantiated, more real.
さとこ今日欠席したじゃないですか。
え？そうなんですか？
That looked like news to Coach. I had thought that he might have known why Satoko was absent today, but...
では失礼します。前原くんも早くみんなのところに行って。
そうですね。そうします。
Coach left the nurse's office and headed towards the teacher's lounge. Ooh, okay. The Hojo family. Every year, Oyashiro-sama's curse claims 2 victims. This means that with 4 years in a row, there have been 8 now, but it's worthwhile to note that half of them have been the members of this family. Note, the curse on the second year, a certain falling accident, involved the death of Hojo, a dam proponent, and the disappearance of his wife. She was pronounced dead the following year after being considered to have vanished under perilous circumstances. The curse on the 4th year involved the death of the Hojo siblings' aunt, who was then their foster mother, and the disappearance of the elder brother. The Hojo family is a poor one, and it's hard to say Mr. Hojo's job went very well. Apparently, upon re-employment via family connections, there was a plan for them to return to the home of the mother's side of the family. For Mr. Hojo, the eviction due to the Hinamizawa Dam project and the payment of a large amount of compensation money was essentially a windfall. Mr. Hojo actively embraced the Ministry of Construction's negotiations from an early stage and was selected as a representative of the dam proponents. It was rumored he had been bought out by the Ministry of Construction for doing so, but the truth is unknown. However, the dam's proponents were in the vastly outnumbered minority. In addition, as the Sonozaki family strengthened its own foundation and promised support against the dam, all of the proponents save for Mr. Hojo switched over to the anti-dam side. At this point, Hinamizawa was completely united against the dam, and Mr. Hojo was held up to ridicule as a stooge of the dam project's proponents. He was, essentially, used as a scapegoat for the anti-dam coalition. In the end, the dam project collapsed with Oyashiro-sama's curse and dismemberment incident. However, punishment toward the bitter enemy supporting the dam project continues to this day. There are not many left today who supported the dam project nor had a negative reputation at the time. If there were any candidates left for the curse, it's the husband of the housewife who was beaten to death last year, Teppei Hojo, and Mr. Hojo's daughter, Satoko Hojo. Strangely, these two are the only candidates left. Will this year's curse come down on the two of them? There is more than enough value in observing them both. To Oishi-san. There was a call for you from Section 4's Chief Shigeharu. Apparently, the slaughtered corpse in Ojikawa River is related to the S group as we thought. We're still verifying what happened behind the scenes, but apparently the deceased filled up dozens of self-created fictional bank accounts to their limits with money from the S group, reaching around 100 million yen. It appears there were 3 or 4 men with the former S group connections involved in this. They have already disappeared along with millions of yen. The deceased was tortured from that point for information, and she was clearly slaughtered as an example to others. There are apparently some real wizards chasing down the people who disappeared. They are also spreading letters related to Yakuza groups not to harbor them. There is still no evidence that Teppei Hojo is one of those people. As far as Chief Higeru can tell, he hasn't been told anything. He was her pimp, but she didn't trust him at all, did she? Teppei Hojo has left the apartment in Okinomiya and has returned to his former residence in Hinamizawa. And with that, we are indeed going to call it an episode. Next episode, we crack on, baby. Until then, this has been your boy Karagol Gaming. I'm out of here. Love y'all and deuces.